Good morning, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast, Insights from Parents and Experts. Today, we have the beautiful Martha Hall coming to us to speak to us. I'm just going to go live over here, just to speak to us about what it looks like to work within a support or disability support working company. Now, as parents, we are entrusting these companies with the souls of our children, which is it's a heavy place, it's a heavy burden. But if anything, you want to be able to trust this company so that they can deliver on the results that they expect. So Martha comes and works from a company called WeSupportU. Now, she originally is from Ireland, and their standards of support care are vastly different to what Australian standards are. And I really want Martha to talk about that and what the difference between the Australian standards and what the Irish standards are, and what is she doing within her company, WeSupportU, in order to bring those standards up and ensure that those quality of standards are actually met by so many of her disability support workers. So Martha, welcome to the Everyday Podcast, the Everyday Heroes podcast. There we go. How are you going?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on. So excited.
Oh, so good. I'm so glad to have you here. So Martha and I had a chat a few months ago, and her passion for disability support workers and for the children that she cares for is incredible, which is why I so wanted her to come onto the team and onto the podcast. So Martha, can you just tell me a little bit more about your background, about Ireland, about the standards that happened in Ireland versus what's happening in Australia?
Yeah, so I am a qualified social care worker, so that's a level 8 honours degree. Completed that at home in Ireland many years ago, but I have been working in the disability sector for coming up on 8 years now, and absolutely loved it. So I have worked in a range of like community settings, residential settings, and respite settings. I've worked from kids age 6 up to adults age 65, so of a broad range of experience with people. But my preference is kids. I absolutely love working with kids. They're just amazing little humans. So yeah, I suppose I moved over here nearly 3 years ago and started working as a support worker in Sydney. And I was initially quite shocked at how kind of, for want of a better word, low the standards were with the joining a support work company. I was quite shocked in the way that I was often sent into homes just knowing the first name of the client that I was going to see and support, given no support plan, given no detail of diagnoses or whatsoever. They literally just said, "Can you go to Natalie's house at 1 p.m. and support her for 2 hours?" And I was like, "Hey, what is this? Like what am I walking into here? What am I going to be greeted by, you know?" So that was kind of my first thing, because back home, like, you would never, ever, ever support a person without having read a file this big on the person, with their support plan, with the risk assessments, with what their goals were, with what key working sessions that you needed to cover. Like, you just knew absolutely everything, like, you know, for a good reason. Then when I started working more with the company and stuff like that, and I started to like work in residential homes, like that, there was no like support plans, no nothing. I couldn't quite believe that, like, the little amount of training that staff were required to have. That was one thing that really, really shocked me, because back home in Ireland, like, everyone, the majority of people have a degree, and if they don't have a degree in social care, they probably have been working in the area for, you know, 10, 12 years, so that kind of would excuse them having the degree. Like, it's a major requirement to work in the disability sector and like child protection center and stuff like that at home, that you have to have something behind you to work with our most vulnerable people, and for quite a good reason. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So that was one thing that really like shocked me, because I really thought that Australia would actually be more advanced than we are at home. So then when I moved to Melbourne and I got this beautiful role as a team leader with WeSupportU. And I was having chats with my manager, and I was like, it's kind of just crazy that none of the staff, have the opportunity to have that training. And we kind of put our heads together and was like, well, this is something that I can offer the team that we have, and we can do more extensive training based off my training and my knowledge as well. I also job share with another lady, Laura, and she has extensive experience as well. So we were like, we can make our team a really good team and give them opportunities that other companies don't offer. We're quite lucky here that we kind of have a small team of support workers, and we don't ever plan on having 150 support workers. That's not what we're about. We're about having a small team, a personable team that can connect with your family in the right way, that can support your child to what they need, and they have an opportunity for like further education. Like we're always encouraging our team to engage in professional development and things like that. But one of the benefits of our team is they can ring me up and they go, Martha, how do I deal with this situation? How do I implement this strategy? And we can just tell them, and that's easy. And that's what is really great about me being in this position now. Like I feel like I can help our support workers be the best support workers. They're already amazing, don't get me wrong, but like it's just that insight knowledge, and I can use my training back home to make our support work team a really great and educated support work team.
Yes. Oh, I love that. First of all, I love that it's not a huge, massive organization where, sometimes it can get overlooked. I love that you give your team the training that they need because, look, let's be honest, Martha, look, as a parent, when you are receiving a child with an autism diagnosis, no one gives you that training, right? No one sits down and says, here, you can do a degree and you can know all the information about what it is to be a parent. So the fact that you guys are educating your support workers on what it looks like to be able to support that and provide that care, that high level of care, is huge to me. Okay, so can you just tell me, first of all, what does a good disability support work company look like? What should parents be looking for?
I think one of the main things is that they're registered. So registered companies are required to be audited, and they have to adhere to very strict guidelines provided by the NDIS. So that is definitely something that you should be looking out for. The amount of like paperwork and data that we have to collect is huge, but all for good reason. During our audits, the representative from the NDIS will come in and they will go through like a lot of our participants. They'll interview our participants to see how they feel the service has been and everything like that. So I definitely would look out for that. I would also look out for that they provide a meet and greet service. So and this is kind of ties into like kind of a red flag of a company. But a meet and greet service is when like you would meet, say, myself, maybe a team leader of a team of support workers and a support worker. And we would say, go to your home, and it's just a chat. We would chat about what you want from support work. We go through all of the legal bits, so our service agreements, our consents. We would explain all the costs, everything like that. And then we would also, that's where we develop our support plan, like the main bit of our support plan. So obviously a support plan is developed like over time as we get to know the participant better. But this is where we develop kind of the main part of the Bible, as we like to call it. So I would definitely be looking out that they do provide that initial meeting, and that initial meeting is really beneficial for you. You get to have a feel of the company. If you don't like what you see, you can go somewhere else, or if you do like what you see, that's great, So I would definitely be looking out for great. Also, I'd be looking out that they provide kind of a matching service. So it's something that we do here. So say if we get a referral for your child, and your child wants to be picked up from school, and then they want to go home and learn how to cook dinner, because in 6 months' time, their goal is that they want to make mom and dad dinner. in 6 months. So if that's their goal, a support work company shouldn't be putting in a support worker that doesn't have an interest in cooking or isn't good at cooking. Like, personally, like I've often gotten a referral for a participant that wants to go out and kick a footy. I am not suitable for that. I don't know. But
me either. Don't worry. I'm not very good at kicking the footy either.
I know, but you're not doing the participant a justice by sending in a support worker that has no similar interests or anything like that.
That's right.
You need someone that's going to gel with your child, and it's going to gel with the family. So I definitely be looking out for that as well. 100%.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love those points. I didn't realize that there was even a meet and greet option. And I really like that because, yeah, you do need to have that ability and that time to come in and meet the child and, like, let's discuss the goals. This is not babysitting. We're not getting someone in to just babysit the child. We want to work towards those goals. So obviously those things need to be discussed. No, I love that. You touched on it previously in that last question, but what would some red flags be if you, as a parent, were in or were dealing with a support worker company? What would you be looking out for if you thought that just doesn't feel right?
Back to the meet and greet again. If you are inquiring with a company and they're saying, oh yeah, Natalie, we'll send you out a service agreement this evening, and if you get that signed, we can have a support worker with you tomorrow. No.
Okay.
I know some things can take a little while. Like you might have like a week, you might send in your referral and then you might have a meet and greet the following week, if it's a busy period or something. I know most companies will try to get it done pretty quickly because we all know time is of the essence. But you shouldn't have it shouldn't be that quick. Like they should be asking a lot more questions. They should be looking to know what you're after. They should be telling you who they're going to put in to support your child, everything like that. That is a major red flag for companies that just kind of focus on the legal parts. It's a lot more like, to me, the legal part is a little bit, obviously we have to get all those things signed and in place, but what are we actually there to do? Like that should be the forefront of the company. Same again, if they don't offer a matching service, if they don't, if they provide you with a different staff member every week, like what's, I know I support adults and children, but for the purpose of this, we'll just go with children. But what's that doing for your child? It's just having an inconsistent person in their life every week. They're not getting to form a relationship. They're not getting to form a bond. It's just, it's going to be detrimental, If a company isn't, transparent, I know, say if you go for a smaller company, sometimes the downsides is they might not be able to cover a shift, say if your regular support worker is out sick or something like that. But that's just, a small negative amongst a great big large pile of positives. But like they need to be transparent about those things with you at the start and be like, look, there'd be some days where there might be a last minute cancellation, but I think it's very important that they're open and honest and they don't like promise you the world when no one can deliver that, so I definitely be looking out for those things for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like the whole saying goes, right, once you've met one autistic child, you've met one autistic child. How do you walk into one person's house and give them the support that they need, and then walk into someone completely different and be like, yeah, cool, I've got this covered? Well, but we're not, right? Some children are verbal, some children are non-speaking, some children are, there's a whole range of different things. And we know this because we know that it's a spectrum. So it is really important, I think, to get that meet and greet and to get that stuff. But I love those red flags. Is there anything else that you would add to that list?
There's probably loads.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine.
But
that is fine.
Yeah, just trust your gut with a company, and say if they do offer you an initial meet and greet and you just don't think it's going to be suitable for you, just trust your gut. You know best. You know your child best. Go with that.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love that. So when people talk about clear boundaries when it comes to a disability support worker, What does that mean? Like, what kind of boundaries should a parent be putting in place for a support worker for their child?
So, like, obviously, when a support worker comes into your child's life, it's very easily for boundaries to become blurred when your child starts to like perceive the support worker as a friend more than a support worker. Kind of my stance on this would be it kind of it falls on the responsibility of the parent to communicate to your child the role of a support worker and explain, obviously in an age appropriate manner, that why the support worker is there and what they're there to help your child with. When we see when we see like parents and children referring to their support workers as friends, it just sets an unrealistic expectation. Often I have heard of like parents not explaining what a support worker is to their child perceiving the support worker as a friend, and then later on the child finding out that the friend is being paid to be there, and the effect that
Right.
has on a child is just horrific. You can imagine they question absolutely everything. It's just a horrible situation for a child to be put in. So I feel like it should be communicated at the start. A support worker should never be friends with your child or you on social media. There needs to be a clear boundary with that. Like a way, and I know it can be a really difficult conversation to have, but you can explain, like, a support worker, say, Martha, her job is to go around to different children and she'll help you with doing your homework, or she'll help you, you know, um, doing your exercises that your OT has asked you to do. And she'll do this, and she might go to 3 or 4 other kids every day, but that's Martha's job, and she loves her job, and very
Yep.
clearly communicate. And like, red flag for support workers, if they're like texting you, like, kind of as a friend yourself nearly, or like, offering to do things that's outside the scope of their role. Like, it's very important that you sense that they know what their role is and that you know
Yeah.
what their role is. And I know it can be a difficult, it happens at nearly every support worker. The child will often be like, oh, so why are you here? And you have to communicate in an appropriate way to them why you are there. An exercise that I like to do sometimes with kids that don't really grasp the concept is, like, it's called a circle of closeness. So you might have heard of it. Some OTs use it quite regularly. But so
No, I
you'll
haven't heard of it.
it's a really good tool, that it's actually probably better if the parents do it than the support workers, because you'll have a better idea of who's in your circle. So your circle starts off in the middle of the page. It's a small circle. So this is mum and dad, the people that are closest to, say, Martha or Natalie. So, and then you might have granny and granddad, and then you might have your aunts and uncles, and then you'll have your friends, and then outside that you'll have your support workers. So
Yeah,
it's just
right.
a visual of where support workers are. They're not they're not in the same circle as your friends or your family or your immediate family. So it's just a good way to explain to kids where they are, and there's a difference between friends and support workers. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah, I
I'd
love
be
that.
yeah, it's a really good tool. It can be a tough conversation. It may take multiple conversations depending on the age of the kid that you're trying to explain this to, but it's just very important that it's coming from you as well as coming from the support worker. And if you feel like the support worker isn't upholding that boundary, it's extremely important that you communicate back to their line manager that you feel this is happening, or have a conversation with them themselves. Hugely important. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love also that the visual aspect of it, because as we
Yeah,
know, most of these kids are so highly visual.
yeah,
So being able to explain it that way makes complete sense, because then we can see there's a clear, a level of closeness that we're going to have with each of those people. And I
yeah,
actually think that that tool would be really good even for typical children as well,
yeah,
just to be
yeah,
able to understand, what does that look like, and, what's appropriate. Okay.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
um, now, I think you sort of touched on it a little bit before, but like actively with goals. When you say that, like in my mind, I'm imagining that, like, are you as a support worker, are you reaching out to the child speech pathologist or occupational therapist or physio or psych or whatnot, and getting some information to create those goals, or is it all coming from the parent?
So a great question. So obviously, when we get your NDIS plan, you'll have your broad kind of goals on your NDIS plan, and a lot of the time, those goals are extremely broad. And you as a parent might identify a lot smaller goals, but a lot more important goals that need to be reached. So what the initial meet and greet is where we would discuss what goals needs like you think are priority for the child and the support worker to work on. This may be goals that are being communicated from, like, say, your speech or your OT, and often you'll have consent forms and stuff like that to allow your support workers to talk directly to therapists. But yeah, a lot of it would come from the parents in that initial meet and greet. So say, like I mentioned, like the cooking, like this, that probably won't be on your NDIS goal. It'll probably be a lot broader of a term. But if this is like a really, if your child communicates, this is really what I want to work on, then you would communicate that. If it's a strategy that's being implemented by the OT, if it's like, to work on fine motor skills, we'd note that in the support plan, and then we would ensure that that support worker is actively working towards that goal in nearly every session. And when I say nearly every session, there are going to be sessions where maybe your child has had a long overstimulating day at school, and when the support worker comes to collect them, they're just drained. Like, we have those days as well. So like, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure sometimes with support workers and working with kids. They're like, so what did you work on today? And maybe that kid was just, maybe he was just tired, we like, I think there needs to be a little bit of grace. But the majority, when I like say 90% of the shifts, I feel should always work towards a goal. And I know
Yeah.
like should be working towards one of those goals. And as a parent, you should be kind of tracking how things are going. Like, so often say at the end of a shift, if you're coming home from work, or you might not be present for the support work shift, something as simple as walking the support worker out to the car, not having the conversation in front of the child, obviously, just being like, how did things go today? We did this, we did that, she wasn't really feeling this. It's just a
Oh,
good way.
hang on. I think we've. Oh, sorry, we seem to have lost connection there for a second. Hang on,
Oh,
2
sorry.
seconds. Can you just repeat that last bit after? No, that's okay. Repeat the last bit after walking out to the car.
Yeah, so that's a good opportunity just for you to get a bit of insight of how the support work shift went. Because often, if you're not there, you don't know how things are gone. So it's a good kind of routine to have with your support worker, just to check in how things are going. Obviously, if you're not seeing your support worker, ask them to send you a text on how things went. Like, it's a very appropriate thing to do, and I think it's important that you do ask for that. And if a support worker is not willing to do that, well, then your red flag is going again. They should be more than willing to do that. But yeah, just ensuring that goals are being worked on and they're being tracked. I know, like, most support work companies, they'll have an online system that staff will have to tap in their notes, and they'll have to mention in their notes like what goal they worked on that day. Reputable support work companies will also offer maybe like a progress review report. So we do that here as well. So it'll be a report about 2 or 3 months into the start of support work, and what that will go through is like a progress overview. Any key areas, that your key areas would be like the goals that you decided you were going to work on at the start of support, how you've tracked with them, is there any challenges, any barriers, and your recommendations for ongoing support. So that parents often love that we do that, because it just gives you an insight onto what's going on. Like, you might think you know what's going on in the session, but say if Martha brings Tom down to the park, there might be a reoccurring conversation there that you might not be aware of, but this report allows you to have that insight of what your child is actually talking about. And often, after the report develops, a child will be very open with a support worker, and discuss things that you might not think is on their mind, or that they don't discuss with you.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's basically it. Just
Yeah.
ensuring that support workers aren't just like going into your home and kicking their feet up and playing video games with your child for 2 hours, you know.
Yeah,
There,
definitely,
there should
absolutely.
be a clear purpose for every shift, bar those
Yeah.
ones that might be a little bit rocky.
Yes, no, definitely. And yeah, because parents are looking for, working towards their goals because ultimately they're probably exhausted themselves. And so they do need that person to come in and work along those, towards those goals. And that just means that person, that support worker is just another member of the team in order to support that child as the best possible way. So no, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And this is a really good question. And I really love this. What do you do if you are unhappy with your support worker? What steps are you supposed to take as a parent in order to either notify them or leave the company or whatnot?
Key is just communicate, and that goes throughout the whole of support work, the whole support work world. Communication is key. We may often hear of parents calling us wanting to exit the service completely, and we're like, oh, what? And they're like, oh, I just don't feel the support worker is doing what they're meant to be doing. And this is like the first time you're hearing of this, being like, oh my God, if you had told me like 6 months ago we could have worked on this or something.
Yep.
So if it's something that can be resolved with the support worker, I would definitely have a chat with the support worker initially, and don't be afraid to communicate these things to support workers. Support workers are very are used to getting like constructive feedback, and they want it because they, like you said, like no two households are the same. What they think might work for your child might not work for the other child. So like if you feel like hey, Martha, I know you might do this in different houses, but like I really feel that this actually might be a little trigger for John or whoever. Just communicate back to them. If they don't take your advice on board, I would escalate it to the team leader and see what strategies you could come up with to manage it. It might be a change of support worker you need. It might be a change of strategy. It might be a little meeting with the OT to see do they have any strategies on how better to approach something with your child with that support worker, you know. And then if you're not happy with when any of those steps have been taken, maybe it's just time to change companies, and that's okay. But yeah,
Yep.
just communicate. Like often, the manager of the support worker, they'll see what's going on like by the support worker's notes, but they might not actually see what's going on, and it's really important for a parent to communicate that with the team leader. And it's what we want. Like I said, like we're going to be transparent at the start, so we need you to be transparent and we need you to communicate with us as well. We don't know how to fix the problem if we're not aware that there is a problem. So
Yes.
so please communicate. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
And I
You
feel
know,
like that's another kind of red flag for a company if they're not willing to take your call for you to explain what's happening, then stay clear. Companies, I know us especially, we want to hear your thoughts. We want to always improve our service. We want to meet the needs of your child. That's
yes, definitely.
that's
And
the
so
common
this
denominator.
No, absolutely. But this goes back to being that true advocate for your child, right? Even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's that stickiness and that heaviness that you need to work through in order to be the voice for your child. It's not a should, it's a must,
Yeah,
right? You as a parent, even if it's uncomfortable to have that conversation,
yeah,
we must have that conversation with those people in order to make sure that our children's needs are being met, that they
yeah,
are getting the support because far too often parents, and I say parents, and it's not always mums, because sometimes I've seen it with dads as well, that they're too nervous to say anything for
yeah,
fear of offending somebody or being impolite or not really wanting to rock the boat, or like, what if we can't find another support worker, or a whole range of different things go through their mind. And I just want to say to parents that if that is you, please, please, please put that aside and just have the conversation. Be brave, dig in deep, really have that conversation, because, you know, Billy, Johnny, Sally, they are relying on you and you alone to advocate for them, right? Because they don't have the voice that you do. They don't have the ability to be able to go, hey, hang on, this support worker doesn't really gel with me, or I don't really like the way that person does this or this. Especially if they're non-speaking, especially even if they are verbal but aren't able to clearly articulate their thoughts. This is where that advocation really becomes paramount, and it's so important for parents to just disregard being polite. I'm not saying, obviously, don't abuse the support worker, but just be like, this is what I'm trying to communicate in really clear terms. And if it's easier, I often tell clients that if you are finding it difficult to have that conversation with that person, write it in a letter, right? Write it in a letter and put it in dot points and just be like, here, this is for you. I find it really difficult to tell you verbally, so I've written down my thoughts, and they can go back and read it and respond to it whenever they're ready. Because sometimes people are also afraid of confrontation. People are worried that they're not going to say the right thing. So by writing that letter, you can really contain all of your thoughts and put it all down on paper and be like, yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to explain. And then it just makes it easier for that communication to follow through.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that. So first of all, can you explain what is WeSupportU as a company? Tell us a little bit about your services and what happens.
Yeah, so we are established, I think, 5 or 6 years. Our director is a social worker, but she's a woman of many talents. She's a bit of an all-rounder. So we are based in Bayside, so we have an office in Cheltenham and in Frankston. We're kind of like a one-stop shop for all. So we have several different service divisions. Obviously, we have our support work. We have allied health that's made up of OTs and speeches. We have a behavioural unit, so that's all your behavioural therapists. We have support coordination, and we have a counsellor. Sorry, he's allied health. So a lot of the time we have participants that like are support coordinated by us, and then they're like, oh, need a support worker. And then the support coordinator will give them 3 options. That's also something important to mention, that when you're looking for a support company, your support coordinator should provide you with 3 options that you can choose, never just one, because they can be quite biased, if they know people or if it's the same service or something like that. So always look for 3 off a support coordinator or an LAC. So what we find really beneficial within our company is that a lot of our participants are shared between multiple service divisions. So say if we have a participant that's with us in support work, and next thing their behavioural therapist works with us as well, it's so easy to have that open communication in the office. And that's what so many people like about our service, is that everything's just kind of under the one roof and everyone can work collaboratively really easily, instead of say if someone's external and you're emailing and trying to find a time that suits them. Instead, here you can just walk and you'll catch someone in the office. And like I said before, we kind of pride ourselves on being a small company. I think we've just over 50 employees, and I don't think our director ever plans on having hundreds and hundreds of employees. But at the moment with our support work, we have 11. Yeah, we have 11 support workers, and they all come from various backgrounds and various education and whatnot. So we've a good mix, and that goes across the board. There's people here with various degrees and whatnot, but it makes for a really nice environment and a very collaborative environment that we can all just work together. So we kind of service Bayside and Peninsula a little bit. So yeah, great company.
So good. And so can people, if they don't live in the Bayside area, can they use your services, or that's not allowed?
I would always inquire. We do kind of have a region. Some things are a little bit far out, but say for the likes of support work, we kind of have this area that we service. But if a support worker lives close to there and might be a match for your family, we'll often accept it if it's easy for them to kind of do the commute. So I would always say inquire. If people are interested in any of the service divisions, there is like our website is really, it's just I think it's just WeSupportU with the u.com.au. There is referral forms on there that are really easy to fill out, but all of our numbers are on there as well. If you just want to make a quick inquiry, say, do you service this area? If you wanted to shoot our intake an email with an inquiry, that is absolutely fine. She'll pass it on to whatever team leader is appropriate. But yeah.
Okay, great. And what are your social media handles?
Our
So that we can
Instagram
find
is
you.
WeSupportU_Bayside. And I'm not too sure about our Facebook. I think it could be just WeSupportU Bayside.
Yes, that's what I've got it down in my notes anyway. But I will
Great.
add that into when we do the posting. I'll tag you guys in so that people can follow you if they choose to.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now it's come time for the rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
No.
Don't worry, it's not too hard. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received, either as a parent or a professional?
Put yourself in their shoes. That's my favorite. Yeah. When you're walking into a home, you need to put yourself in their shoes. And
love that.
Yeah, you just need to be a warm and friendly face. And how would those people feel? And just to mention, when parents are engaging in support workers for the first time, I know it's a really scary thing, and it can be, and it's overwhelming that you're letting a stranger into your house to mind your baby. Please communicate that. I think please just say, hey, I'm feeling really anxious, and we'll do our best to get rid of that anxiousness.
Yes, I love that. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from any of the children or even the parents that you've worked with?
Most valuable lesson. I think like to take each day as it comes. Like, just focus on the day ahead. There's no point focusing on what might happen or what you need to get to. Just focus on the now, and everything will be okay. Yeah.
Yes, as parents of autistic children, we tend to look very, very, very far into the future. And sometimes we catastrophize what that future might look like, but we just need to come back to the here and now. And I totally agree with that. What's a sensory tool or strategy that you swear by?
A sensory tool strategy.
Oh, sorry, a sensory tool or a strategy.
Or a strategy. Oh, that's a hard one. A strategy. I don't know if it's a strategy, but one thing that always kind of works for me is like, especially working with kids, is just like getting on their level. Like I always find it just works well for the vast majority. And I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but it works for a lot of kids that I work with. Is like, if they're having quite an emotional outburst, like you standing over them trying to calm them rarely works. Sit on the ground, and you might not even have to say anything. Sit on the ground with your palms facing up and let them do whatever, obviously if it's safe to do so. But I feel kids are extremely intuitive, and when you present as a calm and safe person, they will naturally draw towards you for that comfort. So just relax. That's what I would say.
No, I love that. I love it. It's true.
It's they'll feel it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And children in general will pick up on your nerves, your anxiety, your depression, your happiness, your joy. They are so intuitive, and they will notice it, whether you're trying to hide it or not. They know. So okay. What's one tool or resource every parent should have?
Can I say a support worker?
Yes, you can say that. Yes, you can.
You need to have a good village, And I think it's important. And I think there's a lot of hesitation from parents to reach out and ask for help. Like, it's okay to do so. Like, so we can't get your life without asking for help. So just do it. And the quicker you do it, the easier it will be. So
Yes,
build your
yeah,
circle.
I hope everyone listening heard that, right? Because
Yeah.
we're all in a boat where some of us are sinking faster than others,
Yeah.
and we just need to reach out for help when we can, and do it, like you said, do it sooner rather than later, because there's
Oh,
no
yeah.
point if you are this high up in water and then you're reaching out for help and you're just barely coping, because that is sometimes too late. We need to get that help in beforehand. So
Yeah.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, our last question is, what's a small win that you've celebrated recently?
Work related or personal?
Either or. No, it doesn't matter. Whatever works.
What's a small thing that there's been lots.
Yeah.
I suppose kind of work related. We had a lovely participant that hadn't left her house in 4 years due to anxiety, and our support worker got her to leave her house a few weeks ago after 4 years.
Oh my God, that is huge. Yes.
Huge. And she has been
Wow.
leaving her house since with support workers, and it's amazing. Yeah.
My gosh, that is amazing. Oh, that melts my
Huge win.
heart. Like, you have no idea. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. So for everyone listening, the website is www.WeSupportU, being just the actual letter u.com, and then the social media handle support you with the U again, and then Instagram is WeSupportU_Bayside. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for your time, Martha. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
Thank you. No, that's all. Thank you so much, Natalie, and for all the work you do.
are so
You're
welcome.
amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, Martha. I really appreciate it. And you will see the replay of this talk, because I'll repost it on social media. But until then, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.